Hey folks, wasn't quite sure how to start this one, so I'm just going to sort of dive right in. Um, I'm a little bit late to the party, I guess, but I figured it was something that I really wanted to sort of respond to. A couple of days ago, there's a comedian named Nicole that did a video saying "Dear Fat People," and essentially, it's a 6 minute long attack on obese people. And there's been a lot of backlash from it. Her channel was taken down for a bit, and then it was brought back up. And she's had a lot of people complaining about it. She's had a lot of people supporting it. And I thought it's good, just especially where the focus of our channel is weight loss, that it's something that I should really sort of respond to. Whether or not it's going to do any good is something else. But basically, it's when you're watching the video, and there's parts of it that this is one of those things that you have those two diametrically opposed ideas in your head, and they don't seem to really want to reconcile. But she went on to basically, aside from the 6 minute long rant against fat people, it's sort of hidden behind a shield of satire, as she calls it, which is a little weird, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, starts out by sort of quantifying things and saying, well, this isn't against people that have a genetic disorder or a medical disorder causing it. And at some stage, she also says that it's not really against people that are a little overweight. It's basically people that look like me, people that are obese or super obese. And then she just sort of goes on a tirade about it. And I understand it's meant to be put forward as something funny. And I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of humor because humor is very subjective, and she's had a lot of support, so there are plenty of people out there that thought it was hilarious. But of course, it's very difficult to sort of see that when you're the target of the attack, which is really what it was. Started out by saying that fat shaming is not a thing, and then proceeds to do it for 6 minutes, which is really odd. But I guess the main thing for all this is that, my knee-jerk reaction to it was, of course, just like everyone else, is to be angry and, call her a whole bunch of names and say, oh, you fucking bitch, how dare you do this stuff. But I didn't really want to do that because there's been a number of different people that have responded to it, and that's pretty much across the board what the response has been. Just one of anger and hurt and everything else. But this is more along the lines of, had a couple of days to think about it and really sort of look at this pragmatically. One of the main things that we've always done on this channel is try to look at things and go, realistically speaking, here's how things stand. So I understand that the presentation itself, number one, the presentation itself is really the main issue. The information that was put forward isn't false. In a lot of situations, she's saying that, yes, it is our choice. It's our fault of the way that we are. We know this. This isn't, anything that's going to come as a shock to anybody. It's just the method in which the information was delivered. It wasn't a matter of saying, well, I'm just gently ribbing people and getting us to a point where we go, God, I never really thought of it like that. It was coming from a place of malice and cruelty. It really is. And near the end, she can sort of quantify it by saying, oh, well, I'm saying this. I'd love you just the way you are anyway. I just want you to stick around. It's not exactly true. It's just one of those things to say, it's all right. I'm just fucking with you. But just like any other experience that we've had like this, that's always sort of the footnote that goes in there. So that people can pretty much say whatever they want, and then we're supposed to brush it off. Now, part of the outcry that happened was her channel was taken down, which part of me is saying, that's YouTube is not, part of the government. It's not. That's obviously going to add a whole new aspect to the attention that this has received, because people are going to go, that's censorship. YouTube doesn't have to allow any information on their channels. They can block everything of mine if they want to, and I can't say anything about it. Because there is a user agreement that we sign when we go in. They don't have to follow, any tenets of the government and saying, no, we aren't allowed to shut this down because it's freedom of speech. You can go say whatever you want. They're a business. They're allowed to shut down whatever they deem fit. which they did. And although I don't agree with it, I think that no matter what people are saying, whether you agree with it or not, if it's good or bad, no matter how horrible it may seem, they still have the right to say it. So I don't agree with the fact that they pulled it down. However, there is an aspect of this that I haven't really seen. Some people have responded to it. That it's one thing that, I don't know, people seem to have sort of looked over, and that's the potential damage that this has done. Now, obviously, there's part of that presentation that was put forward was a persona. It's part of her act as saying, try to be as offensive as you possibly can, and so that people will get all riled up and you can go, yay, I did it. I was able to push those buttons. Which is fine. There are a number of other comedians that do that as well. But the problem is that there are certain things that can cause real-world damage. And I'm not talking about the people that watched it and, were brought to tears, and adults that are now feeling shitty about themselves and have fallen off the wagon and gone off their diet and things like that. I'm talking about actual, real severe damage that can be done. And that's part of the problem that I think was sort of overlooked with all this. And that people were screaming and scrambling to just say all these horrible things about her and try to get the video taken down and everything else, which, again, I don't really agree with. But it was all sort of a matter of saying, well, I was offended by it. So fucking what? When I'm watching it, there are a number of things that I've watched that are offensive. It takes a lot to actually offend me. I wouldn't go so far as to say that I was offended by it, so much as I'm watching it, and because it wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything that we haven't heard before. And I guess if I could say anything to her, it would be that, number one, like I say, this is not new information. There's nothing that, as she put it, as though hoping that this bomb of truth will make people start to want to lose weight, which doesn't really make sense to begin with. This is someone talking about something they have no experience with whatsoever. They couldn't possibly have any educated opinion on it, because this is something that we've dealt with our entire life. And we've dealt with the bullies, we've dealt with the insults, we've dealt with people attacking us and then hiding behind the guise of, oh no, I'm just trying to be helpful. And it's not. Going against or attacking someone like this and going purposely out to hurt them does not make us want to lose weight. It never has, it never will. There's no one I can imagine that has watched this video and thought, you know what, I never thought of it that way. I really do need to get my life in order and feel better about themselves and start working out and start eating better. And although for the vast majority of us, we've really simplified things down with this channel in that it's, we need to eat properly and we need to exercise, need to eat less and do more. And for the vast majority of us, that is the problem. But it's not as simple as that. Just like it's not as simple to say to an alcoholic, well, just stop drinking. I don't see what the problem is. Just don't have a drink. Or saying to a smoker, well, just stop smoking. Just quit. What difference does it make? It's that easy. And we know that it isn't. Aside from, and I'm not trying to say, oh, well, no, there's genetics involved, which, no, less than 1% may have a medical condition or a genetic disposition, or what's the word I'm looking for? Predisposition to obesity. Can't talk. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people like me that we are fat because of the choices that we've made, because of how we eat, because of the lack of exercise. And, for many of us, especially if you're watching this, that you've probably tried a number of different things. And you've tried the different diets, you've tried the exercise, and you've tried, changing the weight. And it's so difficult. But it's not something that she's ever going to be able to understand, because it's not something that she probably has ever experienced. Now, I guess what the problem is that there comes across such an air of contempt and disgust from her towards obese people. And the weird thing is that thinking that this is going to help isn't, because no matter who you are, the amount of disgust that you feel towards us is fucking nothing compared to how we feel about ourselves. And it's just so far gone from any intent to help anyone or to try to say, oh, well, no, I want them to lose weight and I want them to get healthy. That's not why this is being done. This is being done as a means of venting out some anger towards the easiest target that's out there, and that's us. We are still a very easy target. and a very big target. It's because it's so easy to make fun of someone when all you see is the result of their behavior. And although that is true for the vast majority of us that are out there, that, we are the way we are because of our choices. We don't exercise enough. We eat shitty. We don't do anything positive, and healthy in our lives. But you don't know what that person is like. You don't know if they are really struggling to lose weight. You don't know if, what the emotional issues are behind it, which is out there it's sort of at the root of everything that we have. And attacking them again and keep poking and prodding them and saying, you're too fat, you're too gross, you're too ugly, you're disgusting, you smell. These are all things that were said in the video, pretty much. Isn't going to make us sort of wake up and say, okay, well, I'm going to, make my life better. More than anything else, that's going to drive us deeper into eating worse and just going back into our shell and giving up on the struggles that we've been trying to get through and throwing away the progress that we've made at this point. But the main thing I think that bothers me about the whole thing, as I was saying, there's the potential for real damage there. That we've all been bullied right from the time that we were kids. For any of us that were fat as little kids, myself included, that's just been part of life. So this information itself is not new. Someone saying to us, well, you're a fat shit, stop eating so much. It isn't, something that hasn't been told to us before. And saying, well, this is what your friend should be telling you. Our friends know that we are the way we are. And anyone who's going to attack you like that is not your fucking friend. Your friends will admit, yeah, you need to lose weight. But they aren't going to do it with such hatred as this person did. But the problem is that as an adult, we can handle that. We can look at it and say, okay, I'm offended, so I'm just simply going to turn it off and not watch it again. We're going to stew about it for a few days. We're going to fall off the wagon. We're probably going to gain some weight. We're going to try again and get back into it. But this isn't just aimed at adults. This is aimed at everyone. And part of that audience, the huge audience that she got out of this, there are kids in there as well. I've talked about this a lot with childhood obesity, in that it's one of those things that it's sort of imposed upon kids. But when you look at, right now, there's about 150, 160,000 kids every day that don't go to school because of being bullied. Whether it's because of their weight or because they're poor or the color of their skin, whatever the problem is, that they are, or whatever the target is, if it's a problem, whatever their, the target of the bullying is, there's roughly 150 or 160,000 kids on a daily basis that don't go to school out of fear of being bullied. So even if you take a tiny amount of that and say that there's 10%, and we know it's a lot more, say that even 10% of those are bullied because of their weight. And the Department of Justice has actually said that the vast majority of bullying is aimed at kids who are overweight. So even if you have that small amount, that's 16,000 kids that now, in a matter of 6 minutes, have had every single day that they've been bullied justified by having someone say this stuff. Every bully that's ever been out there that has beaten up a kid or made fun of them or forced them to stay home or made them cry or made them feel like shit, whatever the reason is, in a matter of those 6 minutes, she's justified their behavior and said, yes, you're going to get bullied. I'm glad you're going to get bullied until you smarten the fuck up and start losing the weight. That's the main thing that causes the most amount of damage. As an adult, we can feel bad, we can cry about it, we can move on, and we can handle it as adults because we have a lifetime of experience to go on. But when you have kids that are 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 years old that are now getting attacked publicly by a public figure, essentially now, that has got such a huge support behind her, of all these people saying, yes, way to go, make fun of them, make sure that they know that they're disgusting and gross, and maybe they'll do something. So now, it's not just a matter of them going to school and having to deal with it there, they're now dealing with it everywhere. And the amount of kids that kill themselves over bullying because of shit like this is getting higher and higher and higher. And every single year we hear of another one. And the problem is that, well, you can sort of hide behind that mask and say, oh, it's just comedy, it's satire, and then say that it's not fat shaming. Satire is designed to point out, ridicule, and shame the behavior of either people or organizations. That's the point of it. So yes, you can hide behind that technicality and say, "Oh, I'm not really making making any problems," but the real world problem that sort of comes along with that is that now you've basically opened the floodgates and said, it's okay to bully people because look at the support that I've got from this. And to all those kids that have gone out there that have ended up going home in tears or trying to kill themselves because of the bullying that's out there, and then to have another person come out publicly and say, keep at it, because this is the only way that they're going to learn. And just like the bullies in the schoolyard, the only reason to do this is to make themselves feel better for whatever reason. And whether it's just a matter of saying, well, no, I want to do this because it's edgy and it's comedy, and you'll get your attention. You got your attention. You got the support that you were looking for. You were the center of attention for quite a few days on this. And I don't want to turn this into something that is sort of, hate mail towards this person, because again, it's one of those things that it's really tough to try to have an objective opinion about something when you're the focus of an attack. And like I say, I don't necessarily agree with them shutting her channel down. I would hope that this would have been something that she would have seen up front and said, if I do this, then there are real world consequences that can come to this. And for some of you out there, you can roll your eyes and say, don't be so fucking melodramatic. No one's going to kill themselves over this. The problem is people do. And if they're getting it from sometimes it's just a matter of one person at school that is causing this problem for them, that pushes them towards the edge. Something like this is not going to all of a sudden be that one thing that makes that kid go, you know what? That bully's been right this whole time, so I better make a change. And for all the bullies that are out there that now have their behavior justified by this and saying, look, I can say whatever I want. And if there is a backlash, I can just hide behind saying, oh, no, I'm just joking with them. They're actually, I actually do love them and I want them to get better. And I'm hoping that this is going to help them. That's bullshit. This wasn't done as a means of helping anyone. This was a means of venting out frustration over an inconvenience that happened on an airplane. I assume that that's a true story. And just that overall disgust that you have for fat people, which, again, doesn't come close to how we feel about ourselves. And something like this doesn't make us want to, go to the gym and get better. It makes us want to draw back into our shell and just start eating again. Because it isn't a matter of us going, oh, I'm so hungry and I know I shouldn't be eating this. It's not the same as going out with friends once a week or something and saying, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to indulge. Fuck it. I'm going to go and have a piece of cake. This is the same thing as an alcoholic would feel about going out to a bar every single day, or a smoker has about just being surrounded by cigarettes all the time. It's not a poor me sort of attitude. It's just the reality of it. But doing something like this, lashing out like this, in an attempt for whatever reason, I can only assume it's just to sort of make yourself feel better and vent your anger and frustration and contempt and disgust at people like me, that it has no useful purpose whatsoever. It's not new information. It's something that we have heard every day of our lives from the time that we were little kids. This isn't a bomb of truth. This isn't someone going, oh my God, I never thought of this before. It's not original. It's not anything that we haven't heard. The problem is, though, is that every time we hear it, it does cut. It doesn't make us want to lose weight. It doesn't make us want to improve. It makes us want to fucking kill ourselves. And something like that, not taking that into account, not the matter of, saying, oh, well, adults are angry, well, big deal. There are kids out there that are involved with this as well that have watched this and that have been affected by it. Whether it's good or bad, whether you have your support, or I've seen so much support for it and saying, yeah, fuck the fat people. I've seen so many people that have just really just been devastated by this. There are people that are angry. There are people that are hurt. There are people that this has finally sort of done it for them. And they're like, fuck it. What's the point? They've made progress and they're going to stop at this stage because of stuff like this. That's the sort of thing that is so damaging. And while I'm pretty much pro-choice across the board. I'm a huge proponent for freedom of speech. You should be allowed to say whatever you want, but there's a responsibility that comes along with it. Just like I can't come on YouTube and start venting against black people or against gays or against transgender people or whatever you want to have a target at, that you can certainly say whatever you want, but there's a responsibility that comes with that you think, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do this. Yes, fine. Say, here's the experience that happened on an airplane. Here's what I felt about it. But to go out and purposefully attack people thinking that, oh, you know what, I'm going to be the one that's going to change the world with this. The fact that there are over half of us that are either overweight or obese or heavier should, just common sense should say, it's not as simple as just not eating as much and starting to exercise. There are a myriad of contributing factors to it, whether it's emotional factors, psychological factors, or poverty. It could be financial. It could be your location. Geographical factor. I mean, there's a whole slew of different things that are added in there. It's not as simple as just saying, well, I'm just going to stop. If it was, no one would, just joked, no one would be fat. We would all be skinny. We would all be happy. But the real world doesn't work that way. And to try to melt it down into something very simple and say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to cure the obesity problem in 6 minutes by attacking people is not the way to go about it. And I don't think that was the original intent, was to help. I think it was a comedy routine that was put out there. The information is not necessarily incorrect. There's a lot of it that I would even say, yes, it's because, for me anyway, it's my choice. It's my bad choices. This is why I am the way I am. This is what we're working towards. And it's taken a long, long fucking time to get to a point where we can get beyond that and say, okay, I need to start working on this. And having someone trample you down, especially when you're already trying and when you've made progress and you still have people attacking you, doesn't help. But I don't think this was intended for that. I think this was sort of a comedy routine, and I've seen a couple of the other videos that are up there as well, and they all seem to have one target that they go after. So I understand. This is a comedy routine. It's just, I think the execution itself was very, very poor judgment. So her channel is back up. I don't know if they've restored her videos. At the last time I checked, they hadn't yet. I'm sure you can go up and take a look. It's one of those things that I don't want this to turn into, oh, well, she's a bitch and we should just send her hate mail and everything else. This is simply a way of trying to explain that it's not as simple as thin people think. And I understand she doesn't speak for every skinny person out there. That this is, admittedly, especially given the attention that it's had over the past few days, a reasonably small portion of the population. There's been about 200,000 people that have shown their support. There's a hell of a lot more of us out there that are fat. But the fact that there is that support out there, and it's not just a matter of saying, yes, we understand, we think you're helping. A lot of it is that hatred and that contempt and the disgust that people have towards us. Saying, I have to sit beside them, or I have to look at them in a restaurant, I have to do all this stuff. And I get it. The bullies are the same everywhere. The only reason why they do what they do is to make themselves feel better. So, bravo. You got the attention that you wanted. You got the views that you wanted. You were, the center of a lot of melodrama for a few days. And hopefully you get what you got out of it. But I'm hoping that at least you can see that it isn't just a matter of fat people whining and saying, no, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. We understand that it is our fault. But having someone attack us doesn't help. And the fact is that the effect that you have had on especially younger kids that are already being bullied on a daily basis can be devastating. For those of you that are out there that have seen the video, or if you haven't, you can go up and, it's one of those things you think, I don't really want to promote it, but you can't really complain about something if you haven't seen it. So look at it that way. For those of you that are out there that have seen it and that have been affected by it, just know she doesn't speak for everyone. It is a reasonably large group of people, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small subset of the population. There are those of us out there, myself and the other YouTubers that I've shown on this channel as well, that are struggling really hard to get to where we want to be. And that we're there for you if you want support. And if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to get healthier, to get to a point where, you don't hate yourself and you don't have to deal with this shitstorm like this that has happened. That is, although it's sort of shed light on the topic, is going to be gone in a few days and no one's going to remember it. So for those of you that are out there that think, what's the point? Or that you've maybe fallen off the wagon, or that you just simply haven't gotten to that stage yet where you're ready to make that change because of setbacks like this, just know that you're not alone. There are a ton of us out there, no pun intended. There are a lot of us out there that are going through the exact same thing, that we understand the pain that it causes, both with your own self-loathing and with the attacks from other people, the bullying that you go through, hearing comments being whispered, behind you. We know all this stuff. We've gone through it. We're still going through it. And no matter where we really get to, it's never really going to go away. We're always going to feel like we're still that fat kid. But you're not alone. There are a number of people that are out there. There are a number of people that have done response videos like this that really have not just experienced things themselves, but have helped other people. And that just, they're there for you. Reach out to them. Talk to them. Talk to any of the people that you see on this channel as well. Because they've been there. They've gone through it. And I can guarantee you that if they've seen this video, they've gone through it all over again. You've got people out there that you can talk to. You've got people out there that can help you. And you've got people that will say, here's what I've done. Here's what I found has helped. And if you want to get to a better place and get so that, you're healthier and that you're feeling better, then there are people here that you can talk to as well. And they're all over the place. All you need to do is to go and find them. They are out there and they outnumber the detractors by a long shot. So this turned into a much longer thing than I thought it was going to. I wanted this to sort of be very brief, but it's one of those things that I didn't want it to just be me being angry all the time and yelling out a bunch of names and, not really having any productive result out of it. So I'm going to leave this here in the hopes that someone somewhere is going to see it and hopefully feel better about what they've been going through. They can share things back and forth after they've seen the video. And if the person who originally created the video, the comedian that originally did this, I'm really hoping that because of just the sheer number of people that have responded to it, that something is going to click. And while I don't agree with censorship, and I think that, yes, you should be able to say whatever you feel, whatever you think is, your opinion, that you'll take this opportunity to look at it and go, you know what, maybe it's not as simple as that. And the real world damage that can be done, especially to younger people, is worth taking that down and keeping it down. Even if it's still out there for them to see anywhere else, at least you're not contributing to it. And that's really all that you can do. So for this, I'm going to leave this here. No fancy intro, no fancy outro, nothing. Just keep in mind there are people out there that do care, and that it's not everyone that's going to attack you this way. So for any of you that are out there that are feeling that this is sort of your last straw, don't give up. Keep going, keep trying, keep doing whatever program that you're on, whether it's a diet program or an exercise program or just making small changes, whatever it is. Don't let something like this hold you back, and don't let something like this stop you from getting to where you want to be. And if you ever need help, there are hundreds of us out there that are willing to help you. All you need to do is to reach out. Until next time, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.